So then what are some other design considerations for a website?
Great. Thank you for asking. I mean, the two main buckets are like UX and UI when you're talking about building a site or app. We have a episode about that with Schwartz if you want to know more of like the basics of what they are.
Could you say what UI and UX stand for anyone who doesn't know?
Yes. UX is user experience and UI is user interface. When we're approaching UX, you want to talk about things like, what are you trying to get people to do on your site? Can I achieve my goals on an existing platform, or is it something really distinct and custom that I like really want? I don't do analytics, but analytics might be important on a site to like inform what's going on, like where people are going, where they might be dropping off in the funnel if you're trying to get conversions.
I do think it's worth noting that UX is like the structure of a site, like physically where buttons go and things.
Sort of.
We have to make it clear or people will continue to get them confused.
Everyone does get them confused, and it's just kind of...
I feel like the common lexicon of those terms is just they're mashed together as you touch or look at these things.
Yeah. There's like a lot of, even sometimes the way we explain it and the way I understand it, I've seen definitions that actually conflict with that as well. So,
really?
Yeah.
I feel like the art school equivalent is like Gestalt principles, where it's just like you ask somebody what that is, and then it's like everybody says something different.
I don't even know what that is. But
oh, really?
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, I'm just gonna, we'll just, you can, Schwartz defined it kind of as UX being the architecture, structure, and UI being the interior design, if you're like liking it, comparing it to a house. But yeah, so UX, user experience, when you're trying to, figure out what's right for you, questions you should ask and work with whoever you're working with on this is, what are you trying to get people to do on your site? Can you achieve your goals with existing platforms, or is there something really distinct and super custom that you want and need? There's definitely analytics as a thing. I don't do analytics, but different platforms have different analytics capabilities kind of built in or that you can add. And how much of that needs to like get set up, and is it super important for your site? It can be super, super helpful knowing like the sales conversion funnel and where people might drop off, where people are navigating to on your site first, what they're interested in.
Also, just creating a sales funnel, like just having one versus like not having one, probably a good thing.
Yeah. Then there's also like A/B testing is a thing. I don't even know if you can do A/B testing on Squarespace or Wix. To be honest, we've never gone that far. I mean, if you have a client who like is on Squarespace, you're probably not running A/B testing because they have a budget that they're trying to do it on their own mostly. A/B testing is when you kind of design two different options. Sorry, I'm like holding my hands really high so they're not covered by my laptop. You have two different options, like an A and a B, and there could be different variables in it, but I'm a designer, so I'm talking about design. And you'll get like it'll be randomized who gets what when they visit your site, and then you can see which one performs better, if one leads to more clicks, things like that, and then implement that change on your site.
And from a developer standpoint of doing A/B testing, some of the changes could be easier or harder, but usually, you have a lot of options if you want to target specifically web or desktop or users of specific things, all stuff that a developer can help you with.
Yeah. And going back to sales funnel, which Andy mentioned, how unique and specific is your sales funnel? Like, is that something you can easily put together in a existing template, or do you need something more custom once again? We're talking more about the user interface, more of the kind of maybe colory things. So when you're considering the aesthetics, when you're considering brand and longevity versus trends. I think that's really important if you're working with a designer and stuff that you're talking about this, because like how often are updates going to be made? How long is this website going to like last? Who will be doing those changes? Like a full website redesign should last a couple of years. Ideally, you shouldn't be doing it on a super regular basis. Like small updates, yes, but a full redesign, no. I mean, if you are looking to be like super, super trendy and that's therefore kind of informing that, my response would be that like ultimately the visual aesthetic should be attached to your brand and your branding, and that should be evergreen.
Yeah.
You want brand
Recognition.
Brand recognition.
Yeah, and I think even as a user standpoint, whenever you come to a website and things are different, it's like immediately you're just put off, or at least I am. I know I hate when something changes that I've used all the time.
Yeah.
Right. Even when like there are UX updates, like when you load a site and it's like, that used to be bigger font.
Yeah.
I'm upset for no reason.
Yeah.
We don't like change. And trend cycles, we've talked about it it's been talked about so much, but it's also the same for site and design. Like trend cycles are getting shorter. So if you're, sticking to trends, that might not be the best thing, just long term. So you should really be going for something that will last a couple years and are attached to your brand versus acting on short-term design trends.
Yeah.
Another thing to consider is ADA and accessibility. In design, we're mostly talking about color contrast and button sizes. But that is not the full expanse of it. There's tons more to do with it. And I'll cue it up, pitch over to you to talk more about it.
Sure.
But that's definitely not easy to navigate. Like the site, all the rules and things are really hard to understand. So if you want to, be cognizant and implementing those safeguards so that your site is accessible for different people, that is something that you really need to take into account. And not everyone actually designs to those standards. So you want to ask about it and make sure that you and your designer are on the same page with how you're approaching accessibility.
So ADA stands for American Disability Association
Act, maybe?
Put the right thing somewhere here. But essentially
Insert
it's
correct text.
Making sure that your website or web app is accessible and usable by somebody who may not be able to see or may not be able to operate a mouse in the standard way that most other people do. It's really about, from a development standpoint, it's making sure all of your content is accessible. Usually by like hitting tab. If you've ever gone to a website and you just hit tab a couple of times, you might notice that it highlights the links across the navigation. If you put on your screen reader, like Mac, there's like a command for it, and it'll just like auto enable a screen reader, and it'll be like website, and then it'll say the URL, and then it'll say, each link as you tab down or let it read through. Things like adding an option that's hidden to skip navigation is very helpful for somebody who is trying to navigate a website that has a massive menu and you don't want to hear every single link as you're trying to just see what the sports score is or whatever, or see if Bitcoin is worthless yet, or you're rich, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's a major, like, it's very important for like agency. I know, like, here at BrainDo, we're trying to be as aware of it as we can be. And like one of the things we always test for like a new website is to make sure that we can use the website and like give people the option to like go through it. And there isn't like a set standard of this is what you do. Like, it's just, you have to understand the user's point of view and then trying to build something that works for them and still looks nice and matches your design.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work and nobody notices it.
Well, the ones that have to use it do.
Yeah.